All right. Should be there. Yes, family, blessed love. Give thanks to the life giver and the keeper of life, Emperor Selassie the First. Give thanks for such joy. Give thanks for the oneness of life. Give thanks for happiness. And just give thanks for your presence with us. Of course, you know, you are definitely in tune to the Precise Institute of Holistic Knowledge. We are definitely doing an exclusive YouTube program this evening, special program, Rastafari Roundtable. Of course, you know, Rastafari Roundtable is a program that comes to you every year. But of course, we definitely said we were doing a special program this evening here, right here on the YouTube. So each and every one could just come in and sup in and it is full joy the moment with us. Now, in our previous program, before I go that far, let me just say blessed love, you know, to the Honorable Princess Acacia Menon. Of course, you know, celebrating her Earth Day this evening here. Honorable Princess, blessed love.
Blessed love.
Yes, give thanks for life and more life, just moving through. And even on the YouTube, my specific video has a little chop in it. I noticed that from early on, so I'm going to try to work on that even while the brothers get into their reasoning. All right, but I'm going to put something on the table first, family. So I just want everyone to type, sticking and stopping. It's all right. Just listen to the words. What I want to speak about tonight, and those who are watching would have seen it now, even to my brethren, because I'm bringing the topic this evening, because family Rastafari Roundtable is really, you know, a collaboration, myself, and of course, even Brother Otis should be joining us sometime this evening. So, you know, we come together and we speak of issues directly, you know, related to Rastafari. Now, of course, Rastafari itself has a strong link in theology. In fact, I was just a moment ago, you know, we were watching, like, this is in Massachusetts, and they were, one of the questions had to do with Rastafari, and it was on religion, and they were saying, what's the name of the religion that sprung out of Jamaica in the 1930s that has a blend of, this is what it said, a blend of Christianity, I think he said mysticism and Pan-Africanism, and one of the children answered correctly and said Rastafari. I think it's the Rastafariism. Is it Rastafari or Rastafari? One of them names. Then ism. So anyway, so obviously you could see now the world is perceiving Rastafari and mysticism and what's the other stuff there? And Pan-Africanism. All right. And of course, most maybe they perceive it and the way that it is brought to them. Now, actually, this subject may seem maybe on a simple level, but I'm going to bring it to what I consider a very high level. It's not a simple discussion as the way it may seem, because we're seeing what is myth and what is reality. I should have a question mark there, I'll put it. What is myth and what is reality? And many of us, when we hear of myth and reality, it sounds like lie, falsehood, and the truth. Myth is the lie, because that's a myth. Myth is the falsehood, and reality is the truth. Now, the angle that I am coming from, family, myth is not a lie, because I'm looking at this from its anciency, where myth is, I can see, it looks like I may have been stuck there for a moment, but I hope you're hearing me. It seems now, myth in the anciency, it is not something that is not true as such. Remember, we as an ancient people, like the ancient Anansi vibration, we know to express ourselves, express our history. Listen to this, family. Good. We are known to express our history, our religion, our concept, our culture, our morals. We've expressed all of these things, expressed in the theater, in song, in dance, in artwork, and artwork meaning like painting and pictograph, because song and dance is art as well, you know, in speech, and of course in the traditional writing. I hope the family is listening and get, well, I know my panelists get me, you know, but to the wider family, I want you to really understand where I'm coming from here. So now, within our story, we have many myths and what people may consider legend that we not only revere and admire, but we hold heartfully to them because we believe in them. And then now you have what is called history. Some account that supposedly happened. And now this is another thing, because history, oh, that's his story. You know why we say that? Because, so you hear about, you know, sometimes the myth might be more realistic than the history. Now, please, I don't want to lose me. You know I'm going to get to a proper point here. Now, we again, as ancient Africans, the story in myth form, we didn't have to worry if the audience was going to say, but wait, something like that can really happen. Anybody can stop the sun from moving. Anybody can get swallowed by a fish or anything like that. Because we already know, we are, as people say, of the story. Now, I want this to come out good. I'm not specifically speaking of just the Bible. We are advanced here. I'm speaking of knowledge. In the documentary that I know most, if not all, have seen, The Master of Ceremonies. And one of my main points in The Master of Ceremonies is to make a connection with the story of Osiris and the whole characteristics of Osiris and everything, and directly connected to Emperor Haile Selassie I. So when we observe certain aspects of Osiris, and this is what I call just the truth, not the opinion. Now, what I just said may have come across as, okay, I would follow that. Let's just say that's my opinion. I will humble to that. That's my opinion. But it doesn't take away from the fact that the story of Osiris is very similar to the reality of Haile Selassie I. That's a fact. Even when it comes to when they said Osiris became a man at the age of 12, 13, which we all know in many myths and legends, that's really something used to happen often. Haile Selassie, we understand, in reality, even he himself referred to that time at between 13 and 12 as the time he became a man. Even in his autobiography, in Myth of Osiris, we understand the 72 that came to his banquet, which obviously could be translated Haile Selassie's and Osiris, and the 5 years that he was in the underworld. And we speak of Haile Selassie and the 5 years of him being in the underworld. And it's not just Osiris alone. That is why the Christ figure in the Bible has been related to Haile Selassie much. But me personally, in my studies, when I study most mythical figures, there's always something there that seems to directly relate to Haile Selassie. And believe it or not, even other characters within our time. You see how I link the Olmec and even Anubis with Marcus Garvey. Now, I'm saying here, I try to follow me. We all know Haile Selassie is history. Is a myth because it's not true. And Osiris being green and all of that stuff. That itself may not be tangible in front of our face reality. But even within the myth aspect of it, and I'm going to be very humble here to say this, right? That the expression of Osiris may not have been expressed in Haile Selassie alone. Because that's the thing with myth, is not that not true. It's so true that it continues in certain sequences, whether it's in an epoch, whether it's in a different dispensation, but you continually see it replaying itself. I'm going to pass the mic soon, but I'm just going to seal up with certain other key points. I did a program just the other day concerning the myth of Sinew. And the story of Sinew is extremely similar to the story of David and Goliath. I'm not going to break it down now, but it's almost like the same story. And of course, you know, the given to David. Now, again, just like that and other stories, you see the story, but yet still, of course, many would consider the David situation to be realistic. Now, let's just say David, David and Goliath. David battling Goliath, the Philistine. Yes, it looks similar to the Sinew story, but then Haile Selassie's story looks very similar to the Osiris story. Because, you know, 1,000 years from now, somebody could be reading Haile Selassie and say, boss, this story ain't real, you know. What do you mean? Man, look a man 3,000 years before him. That was made a man at 13, just like Haile Selassie. And look here, 72 people come his banquet too, just like Haile Selassie. And look here, they cut him in 16 pieces. Haile Selassie say is Article 16, where the League of Nations betrayed. And look, exactly 5 years, this man take the rise up just like Haile Selassie. Boss, all of them is myth. Because look, this was day before that and day before that. So it's obvious now. This is why I said this is an advanced discussion. It's not about the myth being lie. It's about us now. And we know the Bible is a very critical book to many Rastafari too. So even when we go into the biblical aspect, what is the not trick, but what is the technique that we use to can be able to read something, not looking at it because as if it's a lie. That's why many things seem contradicting. I mean, our creational stories contradict each other, but that's not a problem. It wasn't made to sound exactly the same when the next man writes it, because we see it as a myth. But the myth is a symbolic and a highly scientific way of expressing the reality. That's how I see it. So even the Noah story, I believe in the Noah story. You believe in Noah? Of course. I don't believe a man built a boat, and I don't believe two animals of each kind from all over the planet went in the boat. So how you say you believe? No, that's an allegory that represents the creation story. That's how I see it. So family, Rastafari, give thanks. That is the carpet that I would be drawing. Get where I'm coming from with this, and I'm going to open the floor to Brother Isa and our brother Anko Madrid to come in and tell me, number one, what you think of my position, my outlook on it, and then go into the discussion. How is it that we can, you know, differentiate or discern myth from reality? Blessed Lord.
Blessed Lord. Amen.
Anyone idea?
One nice one.
Okay, yes, blessed evening to all the viewers out there still.
Yes, brother.
Yes, and
but you get where I'm coming from.
Yes, because you know, I'm hear the man expound on these things before as well too. So you know what I mean. So what I would begin by saying, because to say myth or reality, with the definition I understand I man have of myth, I would not put the two like one versus the other, because then it put myths now in the category. At least it kind of slimmed down the definition of mythology to something that is false. When you say myth versus reality, you understand? And to me, myth is more than just a question of the falsehood. To me, myth is like a tool that is used to convey truth, universal truths. That's what it is. I have this book, right? Because when I was studying mythology, this is a book done by Karen Armstrong. All right, A Short History of Myth. And on page 6 of this book, I just want to read a little section here. It says mythology was therefore designed to help us to cope with the problematic human predicament. It helped people to find their place in the world and in their orientation. This is the important part. We all want to know where we came from, but because our earliest beginnings are lost in the myth of prehistory, we have created myths about our forefathers that are not historical, but help to explain current attitudes about our environment, neighbors, and customs. We also want to know where we are going. So we have devised stories that speak of a post-humanous existence, like afterlife. Though, as we shall see, not many myths envisages immortality for human being, literally, physical, literally. You understand? So, in a matter of speaking, myth is a tool, because if you're going to accept that, like writing system of recording events and so on, happen long after human existence. When I say long after human existence, we didn't have writing as soon as human being appeared on the scene. Human being, according to, if you study certain anthropological studies and so on, you will see that, and even what we're talking about on the last program about evolution, there's evidence, scientific evidence that show you that man evolved even in terms of mental, even in terms of their mind. You understand? The thought processes. You understand? So there is a lot of time, there are thousands of years that went by before we even created a writing system that we could start record events. You understand? So according to Karen, what was done, seeing that in order for you to know where you're going, you gotta have a place where you're coming from. You understand? They use mythology to create that point of reference. But all the things that were put into the mythological stories, they came from the contemporary time. It comes from the time that the people actually start creating the myth. So it is things within their reality in that present time that they use to create the stories, and as they call it, anachronistically. They backdated these things, you understand, to lay that foundation, that point of reference, that we can then move forward. You understand? So to say myth reality is kind of just like slimming down mythology to a matter of fact. And mythology is not a matter of fact. You understand? This is the reason why you will have beasts with 7 heads and all these kind of description in mythology. You see? So we have to think about myth now as something that was used as a kind of psychological tool to lay the psychological foundation for human being living experience in the earth. And as we say, there were so many things about existence that we did not readily have any answer for. You understand? So we use mythology to help create those things. So to me, to say, to use this, whether myth or reality, it kind of does narrow down myth into being a matter of fact, whether it is factual or whether it is not. So reality become the factual, and mythology become that which is not fact. I'm not hearing the High King.
No, you're good.
Oh, respect.
You're good. No, you're good.
Speaking, but I'm not hearing the man. You see, for me, we have to broaden the definition. We have to broaden the definition of myth. You understand? So that it doesn't just simply fall into that bracket of whether it is factual or not, whether this event actually happened or not. The myth is used to convey universal truths. This is the reason why, as you were saying in the opening, that you read certain mythological stories from Egypt and so on, and you can basically relate that to His Majesty and even other characters. And that's because of the universality of these stories. It is the symbolic coding of these stories that make these things happen. You understand? Because everything that we express has an archetype. Everything have a base. The way how life unfolds, our experience, the way we experience things, it already presets. They have a way how it unfolds, how it comes into being. You see? And mythology helps to bring out those archetypal settings about life itself. You see, so for me, we have to broaden the definition. I always hear the man say, King, that we write our history. African people are known to write their history in mythology. And the statement always kind of tickle my mind a kind of way. Because then if history is supposed to mean something that is factual, why would you mythologize them? Because by doing so, you're taking away the factual element and making it more into symbolism. You understand? So to me, what we actually did, as Karen just explained, is use the mythological story as a psychological platform for history itself. Seeing that we did not have a way of recording events from the very onset of human appearance on the earth, the mythological story was used for that. You understand? So that's what I would just like to put on the table at this moment, and we can just develop these points as we go along. You understand? But myth to me is, I had to really move it out of the context of fact, whether it is factual or not. and put it into a category that this thing is a psychological tool. You see, it is the effectiveness of the stories in ordering our psyche that make the myth valuable. You understand? That's what makes it valuable. Not because it is factual. It is not meant to be factual. But seeing that we do not have anything factual about our earliest time, then we have to use something to establish a base. So it's like a working formula. You understand? In science and so forth, they do that. You have working theories. And it's just the very same thing here. I mean, if you really think deep into it, you will have to accept that if we have evidence of man walking on all fours, full of hair and all these kind of things, and then we start standing up upright, our thoughts evolve, ideas evolve, philosophy evolve, and so on. You know, if that is the case, then naturally, there is a lot about our existence that we would not know until we reach that point of mental development that we start recording things. Let me touch history for a little bit too, since we are making a comparison between, because reality is supposed to be history, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about history. One of the things we have to realize about history, especially the earliest set of information that we get as history, is that a lot of them are really not factual. They are working formulas. They are mythological stories that were used to establish a base for what we know today as history. The discipline of history over time have actually, the criteria for what qualifies as history is something that evolve as well. If you check man like Leopold, I think is Leopold Van Rank. He's one of the person that is referred to as the father of modern history. Because him and another guy they call, I think is Bishop or Reverend William, if you put, if you go on your Google,
it's the king sticker.
if I'm
Okay.
correctly, you understand?
Your connection skip just for like a 10 seconds there. But I think I get the main essence. You're just calling a few names.
And these guys, and you will just have to accept it, except that you have a way of validating it as such. You see?
That's history.
Right. So even history itself, as we know it, evolved. In today, what history is today from the earliest time is different. Today now, history is recording of events. Back then, it wasn't about recording events because the earliest history, nobody was there recording these things. Nobody was there recording what's going on. You understand? So this is part of the reason why they had to use mythology for our earliest history. Because without that, it's like, how do you start? How do you start the story? You start it from now? Because if you start it from now, you have to start speak about where now evolved from, how it evolved into what it is in the now. And these considerations is what necessitate creating these stories, though they are based on things that we learn in our present reality. You understand? Principles that we learn in our present reality. That's the reason why they have to create these stories, these mythological stories. You understand? So it's very important to understand this about even history itself. Because the discipline of history doesn't start very long. The discipline of history was in the 15th century that the discipline of history developed, the history that we know today, where you're recording events and so on. What we see in the pyramids are not events. They are the lessons that the ancestors learned throughout their existence, and they put them in the story form on the wall, in these mythological story form on the wall. The African weren't interested in writing about who is whose son and who descended from who and when this happened and that happened and so on and so forth. They were interested in conveying the lessons that they learn now in this story so that the future generation don't have to reinvent the whole wheel. You understand? So the stories that we see on the wall of the pyramid, they are not necessarily recording of events. They are stories actually teaching us principles about life and how life itself unfolds, how we experience life as a whole. And all of the deep concerns that we have. This is the reason why you have things like primordial questions surrounding our existence. Where did we come from? What is our purpose? And so on and so forth. You see where I'm coming from? So these are just the thoughts I like to put on the table as we go along for consideration. We are not dealing with the same history that we know today. When we're dealing with way back 1,000 years ago, it was a different concept altogether.
Yes, family, this is Rasta Roundtable, you know, let me just, this is like a special YouTube, and before we come in there, brother and Coma, we have how much people? We have almost 50 people here just for, so I know we can press that thumbs up thing a little more, you know, give us a little more of that thumbs up. That will assist 50 or so more people to come into the vibration. So yeah, those who are just coming in, you know, this is Rastafari Roundtable, and of course the reasoning and the discussion this evening, Rastafari, what is myth and what is reality? And before the dread come in, it's so much that King Iceland would have brought forward, you know, but let me just say, you see, even when it comes to the occult, there's even a different outlook on mythology and the mythos. Now, from my own personal experience, I agree with the whole aspect of, I don't remember the sister in the book there, but as you said, the whole psychological aspect of it is very important. But I would say that with the mythos, that we also record our history, because you're saying now, the reason why I put it down as myth and reality, you know, is just for that same reason. Because the majority of us, as I said at the beginning, actually consider myth as something that's not true. Now, how you're defining it, I would say just like how I was defining it. It is definitely not that it's not true.
Hold on, can I interject?
No, you can't. You have to make me done.
Okay,
no,
okay,
you can't interject. You have to make me done this. But as you were showing now, and I want the brother to come into now, but just hear me out. Sure. Now, I would disagree with that. And that's from my own personal experience. It is factual for those who understand how to read it properly in its scientific makeup. Because even down to the little glyphs that we draw and the colors that we use, take it from me, we have it coded scientifically that you could literally read it and understand what will happen in 10 years' time. Now, let me just give you a little glimpse. I don't want to sound no extra mile, but I have a good understanding of how the heavens work. And I can clearly see from my studying how those who wrote the myth that we call myths and mythos, specifically mythos, not mythology, would have decoded the movements of the heavens. Because remember, you know, me and you and the brothers sitting here and all that listening are one with the universe. And just as how you express that, maybe we don't reach to that heights yet. Trust me. I mean, sometimes we say we don't reach and some of us don't reach it. I'm telling you the truth. I can clearly explain how we would have seen certain movements of the heavens. And because we understand the mechanics, we can see 100 years into the future and write it in mythos form, where a person like I today can look at it and say, I understand it properly, and show you where the historical aspect of it unfold. Go through. And then don't make it too long. I want the brethren to come into and free up himself. Yes, my Lord. Go through now.
No, well, you see, truth and fact is two different things.
I get that part good. You know. But before you say now.
So
no,
when
go
you
ahead,
say,
go
for
ahead,
example,
you go ahead.
so when you say, for example, that the myths and them are in fact truth, I mean, it tends to suggest that they are factual, meaning exactly what he's saying, literally, that's a fact, like that happened, like so. That's what that said to me when you say that they are truth.
Yeah.
Now, if you say that the stories convey a deeper truth, then I can agree with that. But if you're saying you see me, but if you're saying the aesthetic itself of the story is factual, meaning this guy slapped that guy yesterday, 10 million people see that, like so, then that kind of difficult for me to process. But anyhow, Ankoma Jed, forward.
Yeah, but no, before the Jed come in, we just want to show you that I would humble to what you say. Because what you bring in, you know, you bring in a deeper meaning here, you know. You bring in something that's not a lie, yet still not factual and a truth, but yet still it's valuable. It's not too much people can even conceptualize that, eh? That's very deep. All right.
Well,
I want to
I think
psychology as this. Go to my Lord.
Blessed good night, man. Respect everybody, you know.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Well, listening, I like to hear Rastafari talk, you know, because he's a man well eloquent and, you know, he have a lot of knowledge, you know. So I don't really disagree. I agree with a lot of what he's saying, you know, concerning the myth but I think just now when you summarize what he say, I make a little hiccup. He say that he's saying that the myth is still truth, but truth and fact have a distinction. I think that is what you were saying. So you know what I mean? Because the value in the myth is as we say, the kind of blueprint that we're supposed to achieve or whatever it is, you know. So the character in the myth, it come like it's you yourself, the individual, and you're going through the tribulations and the trials in the myth, you know.
True.
So yeah, that's how I watch it. And now if we come in towards relating to Rastafari, if we relating it to Rastafari now, I find that Rastafari, out of all the so-called faith systems or cultures or groups that are around there, we have a certain more potency in real historical facts of Haile Selassie. You understand? While, because, you know what I mean? Because one thing, every member of a certain religion, they tell themselves that their religion is real history and the religion of the other people is myths or not real history. You understand? That's a key factor in it now. So if it come like, but nobody can, well, at least right now, they can't say that Haile Selassie never exists and all of this other thing. You understand? Because we have the testament and the record, and you understand? So it come like Rastafari have as a movement, we come like we have more ammunition or we have more material to work with then, because we have the myth, whether it's the Judeo-Christian myth or the Kemetic mythology, and you want to apply it, or even certain other mythology of other systems in Africa, and even without Africa, you know what I mean? Out meaning coming from outside there. You know what I mean? So it's how man, as we say, like even Priest Isaac, I believe, draw some correlations with the Buddha and them kind of man there, and Lord Pakal and these kind of brethren and things. So it come like we have the myth, and we that's one thing. I read something back in the day when I talking about Rastafari thing, and it's saying how is that acephalous movement. I mean, it don't really have a head now. A head acephalous, but certain man might like that how that song, but it means to say that it has such a wide range of individuals that tell themselves they're Rastafari or is Rastafari within themselves. You know what I mean? And they have different views completely. You know what I mean? It's all kind of different myths and different cultures and traditions that people subscribe into within the umbrella of Rastafari. Now, it come in like, yeah, each one of them now, but then it have the history of Rastafari. One thing I just noticed is that plenty times the myth is start to overpower the history. You understand? And I think sometimes it be to the disadvantage of Rastafari movement. So in a way, more people able to expound on the myth side of things as opposed to like the actual political or economic thoughts and instructions of the emperor. You understand? Like, yeah, so that's something we need to get put into correct frame of reference, and you know what I mean? Because I think that the history of Rastafari is so it come like it does give us more validity than a next religion was just dealing with myths alone, and they don't have no tangible political agendas and economic agendas to tend to. You understand what the leader done set up and things.
Yeah, man, Rastafari. Third, I mean, a heavy subject, you know. Hey, before we come in, let me just read a few, give the crowd a little respect. Black Mills in the house, a question. He's saying mythology, symbolism, and allegories with deeper meanings. They could be historical, past, futuristic, prophecy, and present time in our everyday life. They are also scientific. This is Empress 33 says the definition of myth means a traditional story and concerning early history of people. Tola says respect to the elder Isern. I think that is money making. Jake says I understand Ras Isern. Let me just rush through here. Let me see. Okay, I'll give thanks. Ethiopian World Federation in the house as well. And blessing everyone in the chat. Also Ras and P. Herm says, Blessed Love Priest Isaac, many thanks for the lecture entitled Haile Selassie, Rastafari and Freemasonry, which is quite interested in this kind of subject here. Most powerful, my Lord, give thanks. And insightful, give thanks. And he said, you truly connected the dots, and I appreciate that. And one saying, great topic, etc., etc. Okay,
yeah, man.
yes, fair enough.
Sound like
yeah, so what I was saying still now, yeah, man, give thanks. Pardon? Okay.
Just say it sound like the audience full joy in the conversation.
Yeah, fully. So, but no, what I was saying,
we're engaged.
Right, because you see, this is why I said, you know, maybe when we're done, I might try to rearrange the title a little bit. But because this is what I'm saying, in reality, myth give that impression one time. And, you know, unknowingly, really, we're trying to graduate out of this. So this is why I'm saying this classroom session now, we want to see it as if, listen, we on the level already that because if you notice, you know, the aspect of myth is not being portrayed here as like, no, that's not real. We are in the school where we see it as real, as I say, you know, this conversation about it not being a lie, and yet still it's not factual and the truth but it has so much value. Some people may have to go and sleep on that and wake up and say, okay, get it now, you know, because we have not been trained to think nothing like that. Remember how we train, you know? Yes and no, right and wrong. There's no different layers in no one thing for us. But there's a term for it, linear. We just think linear. But now just this conversation, because in a sense, you know, remember we didn't, it's not as if we practice and then come and screen, you know. So I'm telling you, just how you place it in between, man, trust me, as a thinking person, that is very deep. Just to put it in between, it's not a lie. But that's why people will look at the glyphs and so on and say, man, even us as conscious ones, we say, remember, brother, these things are not real, you know. No, but they are real. They're real. They're just not as literal as how they look. Yeah, got you.
Yeah, well, you see, this is one of what I'm gonna try to counter as we go along by keep speaking to the definition of words. Because when, for example, one come and start say, oh, it is not a lie. Once you hear that term come in, that means they're thinking about the story in literal form. So lie come in as to say, well, it actually happened that way as an event. So we got to come out to the mind of whether it actually is an event that happened that way, or whether it is something broader than just speaking to an event. We got to take it out of the context of event and make it more into symbolism and psychological working. One of the things the Egyptian culture, the African culture of Egypt, actually mastered was the whole aspect of psychology. And you can tell this when you listen the recordings and read about the Hermetic principles, where you hear about the universe is mental. Once you hear a statement like that, I mean, these people that come into that conclusion, they're at psyche they're talking about. It's mind they're speaking to. You see? They're talking about psychological things. If the universe is mental and everything about this outside world, you gotta process this, you gotta process that mental first, internal first. You understand? Once you gotta do that, it is telling you that this thing is really deeper than events are happening outside of the human body. Mythology, let me tell you something also, when we're dealing about, just the other day I was listening to a lecture by Manly P. Hall, right? And he was talking about how the whole concept of God developed in human thinking. First, we start make God into objects. We start use object to refer to God symbolically. Then we graduate from that to start out seeing God in the form of an animal, because we observe certain animal and certain characteristic about them, certain attributes, and then we say, okay, God is very similar. So we make God into like in India, they have a cow that they consider cows to be holy, like, symbolic of God. Then we graduate to the point of making God into human form, personifications. All this happens, in progression as we evolve idealistically. You see him? Now, Manly P. Hall say one of the problems that you face with when we start conceiving of God, because remember, you have the African detention that say God is not knowable. It's very important to keep that in the back of your mind when you talk about this God, because this entity is a mystery. Africa didn't have a name for, essentially Africa didn't have a name for God, because they say anything that you name, you can control. And we can't control this entity. So this is the reason why we create mythology and so on, because if we stick to just describing things in realistic terms as how they actually happen, it will take away that mystery aspect, that deeper part of what God is, and make it into something very mundane, something very specific, something that you can touch, define, and break down, and so forth. So Manly P has one of the things we try to do now, when we create it, when we personify God now, then we find ourselves having a problem, because that's limiting our understanding of this God, because then God will come down into the simplistic form of this human being. And you know, human beings have their imperfections and so on and so forth. So what we had to do, we had to now add attributes to this human that make him beyond human, so that we can recapture that mysterious part of this entity. Because remember, this is an entity that even the Bible says that we cannot fully comprehend this entity. Even Bible tell you this. So this is part of the reason why we have all these supernatural story and walking and water and so on, because we're trying to make it more than human being who we are in reality. And this is the reason why we add those elements to it, walking and water and all these kind of things. So that no little simple mortal man can put himself in that bracket, because then you have to fulfill those supernatural features, which he cannot. Because the reality of our life experience do not allow for us to be those things. They are transcendent. You understand? So in order to bring the transcendent into our reality, we had to create these supernatural kind of attributes and characteristics to this God, so that we capture the transcendent nature of this thing, and not have it just stuck and limited into just the human limited experience.
I wanted to say something quick directly on the walk and water thing, especially for the audience. Okay, now not judging the eye, my lord, these in our community. See, like how you say, so we make up things that, well, these are not exact words, like to walk and water. Now the way it come across, just from how it sounds, like, well, it sounds like, not if not to say negative, but it sounds like, man, you like, it's something well, let's say negative. But now the walk and water concept as a myth, then, if you want to call it that, outside of just trying to create something to make someone more superior than they really are, something to do that people don't usually do. Maybe following the Anansi concept, this is what we're trying to get tonight, follow the Anansi concept. Wouldn't you see that maybe the walking on water is a good myth that we put down to explain, you know, the whole, it's like the concept of moving mountains. So it's not like go and move Boggy Peak. Boggy Peak is the highest peak in Antigua for those who may not know. But it's moving obstacles from out of your way. That was just so big and, you know, dynamic. So the walking on water, because we know the value of water. We know the makeup of water, which brings us back to science again. We know how important water is and all the chemical, physical aspect of water. And here is a man, a people, or a society that is walking in water. Don't you believe? Because remember, it's not the Bible character, the first person that do this now. We find this walk and water thing in other places. So I'm just saying, don't you think it could be put down as a positive instruction? Not necessarily mean that you glide in on the H2O, but that this person or set of people have conquered that level, if you want to put it that.
Yeah, well, I totally do not view the story of walking on water as some negative. As a matter of fact, let me tell you how I interpret that. And some metaphysics coming now. Because water symbolizes emotion. And the Christ is a state of consciousness that within our reality is above the emotion.
There you go. That's it.
You understand?
One of the levels.
So in a matter of speaking, it is saying like, your Christ mind have to rise above your own emotional impulses.
My Lord, there you go.
In other words, your judgment can't strictly be based on an emotion that shift you left or right, but a conscious, stabilized place, a place of infinite truth, of absolute truth. You understand? So the Christ walking on water is like saying, rise above your emotional plane. Yes, and make your decision now from this divine state that see the full circle and the wholeness of things. So there's no negative in it. But the point I'm trying to make is that we add these elements because, listen, by the law of physics, man, your body as a mass is heavier than water. This is what make I'll float up to the top of water and so on because of weight difference. You understand? So in our physical, by the law of physics, for a man who walk on water is like an impossibility, except that he can do something with his consciousness.
But you
because
you
the
can lie down
body
on water,
itself-
yeah. But you
Come again?
Well, you know,
sorry to interrupt. I was just thinking that
connection, choppy.
that you can lay down on water. I'm sure there I can lay there I go down on 4G.
Of course. But if you know, as I say, when you lie down on water, because check with a boat
Right.
too, right? Because if you take a piece of iron and throw that in water, you can sink to the bottom.
Connection.
But if you shape iron like one ship,
Okay, but I just put in your foot.
float. So if you put a man to lie down, he
Yeah,
have
but
enough
we
mass
go
and
back.
so on that once
Yeah,
he
man.
relax enough, he can float. But tell he turn up on that small part of the soul he
Come
feels.
on.
Then he will
And
sink.
different thing altogether.
You understand? So
But here what I'm saying with
But let's just bring it to the conversation, man. A very good
down
conversation.
inside
Just put it,
down,
just put it
in,
and come.
down in the down in the Dead Sea, down in the lowest point now, where the salt high the salt concentration high in the water. You just float. It come like it's hard to sink there, you know, because the thing pushing you up now. The buoyancy different.
buoyancy, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Buoyancy.
So, it's
That's
that
the
kind
term.
of
That's the term. Buoyancy, yeah.
Now, you see,
But
now, okay, hear this now. To border on the myth reality now, because now, I agree. Okay, as I said, we can float on water. You know, we grow up like that. You know, me, I can lie down on water and look up. Okay. Somebody with a scientific mind will tell a man, if you ever see them Jet Li movie when Jet Li running under the water, because of the speed he keep flying to the water. Once we tell you read some of Malachi York book. Malachi York tell you if you look out, and I know you go to enough of them books, but I say he show you the web feed, and then he give you example about the lizard that named Jesus Christ, and that have a lizard. Now that come in and say, well, listen, man, I never really seen anybody walk on water, you know, but from possible. Let me ask you, believe people can levitate? I hope I'm not straying from the topic.
no, yes, as I say, yeah. I mean, that's possibly if you get centered in a certain place that through your own conscious mind,
Getting deep now.
that you can actually affect the weight of your body and so on. I mean, these things are, one can say, scientifically proven with the monks and so on that sit in meditation and so forth. You understand? But note well, they cannot go and work and take care of their family and everything at that state.
I levitate.
You understand? They can't do normal things and levitate, so you know what I mean? They themselves, when they come out of that levitation, have to walk about for earth like me.
Yes, yeah, man, deep.
So,
one thing I want to say about the myth side, right? Is
so you know, but the idea really is,
Make the jet say something there, you was just coming in.
yeah, man. Listen, one thing I want to say about the myth. Well, one thing I want to say about the myth is that is a living thing too. Man. You understand it? Just similar to we last conversation. It come like it is going through evolution too. The myth does go through evolution. So it is be getting additions to it, and certain is be going in different directions and things like that now. Because one thing, one example of that in real life and thing, it come like there's have people like historical people who, when some of them, when they pass, the church and them just canonize them, right? Canonizing somebody as a saint, it come like you add them into the mythology of the religion. You understand? Because it come like now they become venerated in a certain aspect, and they could direct certain supplications and whatever it is onto the saint to carry it according to their religious construct. Then, you know what I mean? So
True.
yes. Yeah, so and then even now, some of the myths, like how I soon just give us that interpretation of walking on water as dealing with your emotion and overcoming your emotion and thing, you know what I mean? And next man might come and say that water symbolize materialism. I freestyling here now. You have a song I say that freestyling. I'll give you a hypothetical example. So you come like a man might say that might be materialism and you're supposed to overcome materialism. Or the man might say the water represent greed or something, you had to overcome greed or something. You understand what I mean? So it come like
True.
It come like enough. Look how much people now in the world reading the Bible specifically, right? And using and creating various mythologies and traditions out of the same text. So it's the same set of words, the same limited amount of words in the books, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you have Rastafaris, you have Christians, you have Mormons, Jehovah's Witness, Protestant, all the various aspects of Christendom. And then it's the Judaic people, the Abrahamic people, they all using one text. And even the Quran it drawing most of the information and stories and things relating to the same Bible. But it come like they even adding things into the mythology in their aspect and whatnot, you know what I mean? So
yeah, they add definitions, they add further definition. And it's perfectly in order. Because you see, within their vernacular, they understand the symbology. They know what this means and what that means and so on in their vernacular. So that's one the other consideration we have to have. We have a vernacular. And in our vernacular, water might mean emotion. In somebody else's vernacular, they use it to symbolize something else. But you will always find that there's some correlation in terms of the reality of things. Because the nature of both will be coming from the same thing. They come from physical reality, spiritual reality. You understand?
Yeah, man. One thing too, you see like when you come in with your, with your tradition.
Letting the family know what's going on. Yeah, true.
When you come in with your tradition and thing,
I hear you good, everything good.
You might be wise, it might be good to even start to reset time. You understand? So like the BC AD thing, that's the start of the Christian era. But then it has something called I think it's the Hijra or that is when the Islamic people just count time from when the Muslims went and make the turn to Ethiopia.
Hijra.
The Hijra or the Hijra. It's a little bit, you can type in them similar words there and you will get to the correct.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's when the Islamic people start to, in their calendar system, that is when them start in this counting of time from when the followers of Muhammad went to Ethiopia when they get run out from Mecca. No.
So time began.
Yeah. And then so even like in Rastafari, right, we supposed to start to reckon time and all saying, all right, we might be counting it since before coronation and after coronation, something like that. So if we're doing that now, we're like in our year 93, right now in the year 93 after coronation, I believe. You understand? Or we might count it from the birth.
Yes.
Them kind of thing. You know? So so because living myth, and we defining the myth as we live inside it at the same time too, you know?
Yes, because we actually just embellish the myth. You see, we actually embellishes it as we go along because it is effective for psychological work. That's why we do these things. This is why you use similes and all these kind of things sometime in your expression, because just using usual word doesn't allow you to focus certain things. You understand? So it perfectly in order. But Nkoma, interestingly, what would you say? What would the purpose be for us to set up that time system as you describe it? What would be one of the benefits that I would see in doing stuff like this?
Well, one thing, it is cement certain teachings into hardcore memory now. You understand? So if we start to count them things from then, like it come like it ensuring it maintain relevance going out throughout time. You understand?
Okay, respect.
I think 2023, like we in 2023, I think they refer to like in the I guess this is supposed to be, I think, the 2023rd year of our Lord. You hear them use that term, in the year of our Lord, this amount of years of our Lord. Even with the people and the crown king and so in England and so in these British places, they use this in the 50th year of His Majesty. I think it's some kind of energy like that the king is speaking of. You know, I wanted to get to some myth around the emperor too, but before we go there, I just wanted to see what the item think, especially when you were talking, Brother Nkoma. Sure, you mentioned the previous program that this reasoning kind of dovetail off of that, and how you look at this. Although I would have spoken of this before, but well, obviously it needs a little more research. But just the basic idea. Now, the Ham, Shem, and Japhet story, and this is why I kind of wanted Brother Otis here tonight. Ham, Shem, and Japhet story. Now, everyone know Shem, Ham, and Japhet. I think that's the real line. Maybe it's the Bob Marley song, Ham, Shem, and Japhet. But anyway, most ones would consider the storyline in that story is a storyline that suggests that these are the three people wherein all the races on the earth would have come from.
True.
Because of Noah and the flood, and these are Noah's children for those who do not know. Now earlier, although I just said it kind of quickly, but earlier I kind of alluded to my perspective of Noah and other stories. The flood story is one of the most found stories in different cultures. The flood story, I think, is the most popular of the stories. Now, some people are going to take that now and say, this is to prove that a flood really happened. Because it's almost every corner of the world you get the story, which is a good argument. I don't really subscribe to that, that whole flood thing there. But what I'm saying now is that I consider the flood story, just like the story of Nut and Naunet, as a creation story. Now then Noah has the 3 sons, and from the 3 sons, all nations would have come forward. Now, on a scientific level, on an anthropological level, I think, like how we were talking about evolution the last time, even when we came to the sealing up of that discussion, we reached to the point that we already talked about the man, the original human, evolving to that stage. Then we also said, but then after he evolved to perfection, he started to, I think his Otis was using the term, he started to mutate into what you would call the different nations, and no need for no one to be offended. We're just talking scientifically here. So what I'm saying now, could it be, without trying to figure it out and trying to justify it, but could it be that that story, Ham and Japheth and everything story. And the moral of the story that all nations come out of these three people, who people would argue are the same people. If Noah is an original man and his sons, these are the original people. But somewhere down the line, whether it's through Ice Age, whether it's through sunspot cycles, whether it's through one other reason or the other races come about. And we know that's reality. Could it be that that story was a mythos for the scientific reality of anthropology as we know it today, and the filtering down to the different races? I want to understand one of that.
Yeah, me directing me comment.
No, well, I only want to buy an eye for sure. I only want to buy an eye. And just an idea, you know. I ain't putting my neck on the block for it. It's just an idea, you know.
No, well, yeah, I would say that easily plausible. They come like, yeah, that the people and them, they're trying to understand as any basic rudiments. You could say that just really saying that it have an original stock of humankind. Then you understand. If you take away the certain racial thing and harm and who get cursed and whatnot, it come like you could just say, well, they're trying to relate that humankind come from one original stock, however, and that in such you could find a connection with the anthropology science.
You are on the King, sir. You muted, sir. The mic and mute.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I would agree with that. With that explanation by Majed, really. Yeah.
You're good. Positive. Yeah. Rastafari. Well, family, we're going to soon seal up, you know. We don't know. We're just spending a moment. But kind of want to bring it home to the King of Kings. You know, the previous time we were here, you know, I asked a question in a sense that, okay, because we already come to the conclusion. Everyone see where the mind frame is. This is how I think, and obviously this is how the brethren them think. We ain't got a problem with myth. To be honest, I believe Rastafari need to evolve out of some, to me, linear thinking that we just beyond. Sometimes it just kind of tickle my waters emotions. You know, sometimes especially when you know, it's like after a good discussion, people will talk and say any old thing out their head and as if you didn't understand what was said. But anyway, let me calm the waters. What I'm saying here now, could it be that in any way that we put Haile Selassie in what appear to be this super form? Or let me use the example I used the last time. Remember what I was talking about? I saw this beautiful picture with Brother Vaughn Benjamin and Haile Selassie.
Yeah.
In the picture, Haile Selassie looked like the Haile Selassie, the coronation, no grey beard inside. But Brother Vaughn looked like the last Brother Vaughn we see. Have on a beautiful caban, you know, the fullness. Nice picture, looked like an airbrush. And he had an umbrella over the king. And, you know, they tried it. Now, I would assume in some other etheric realms that may be so. Now, so in a sense, that was nobody gonna take a picture, you know. Somebody was expressing, I guess, how they spiritually feel about these two individuals and maybe how they're bonding in whatever realms they're existing in. This is what I'm getting. So I, just like you're saying, in a sense, that's not, maybe it's not facts the way it looks, but it's not a lie. And it's an expression, not really of the future or the past, but somewhat of a present expression. Now I'm going to take that. I hope the audience getting me good. I'm going to take that now and look into the famous photo again of Haile Selassie flying through the sky and the Statue of Liberty falling over there and Pope John Paul II dropping off the bridge and the king of some locks too coming out of his crown and he riding a lion and burning up. Rastafari, them is one of the first pictures. So in a sense, it did a job. Yeah. So is all of this fanciful, since we have myth and this sort of expression is a part of our culture. I'm sure most ones that like paper, maybe they were actually looking for the king to bust out the sky. And I think that's the premise you're going to use. But what I'm saying, Brother Iser, you don't know, we just think subconsciously too, you know. That painting is not wrong. I don't think we would say it's wrong, especially if you put it in its right perspective. Good.
That's the important part, the perspective.
You're going to say something, so I'm going to make it go through.
Yeah, well, as I say, listen, as you're saying, it is a matter of perspective. We are not going to, you have to understand something about this whole mythological way of putting over things too, right? Because to put over things in a mythological way is not really something that the average mind is going to read the deeper meaning of. For you to see the deeper meaning and for you to appreciate what's going on there, you have to at a certain level of awareness as well. That's very important. We are trying to bring this thing down to a level that the average mind can understand it and agree with. But for the average mind really to gravitate to this, they themselves have to grow into a higher reality that they can see the symbolism. Because outside of that, they are trapped into just dealing with literal reality and not beyond the literal. A lot of the things that we do in terms of even around His Majesty and the mythology surrounding His Majesty, again, what we are seeking, we say His Majesty is God. God is a transcendent entity. It's beyond human comprehension line. So if you're going to apply that term to somebody who is in this realm, or this realm is not the transcendent realm, then we have to add certain characteristic to our story to capture transcendency. And that's where all these elements come from. You see? If we're going to apply the term God to this entity, given what this God thing is, we can't make it as usual as we're talking about with Richards. Because that just would not resonate. We have to make it something beyond us, something that we have to be in awe of.
Yes, I know. No, it have a little saying that is go, art is created and science is discovered. You know what I mean? So it come like, even the myth, you can might say myth is created and science is discovered. You understand? So it come like the measurable aspect of things, as what Rastafari saying there, the measurable things and whatnot, that don't really fit the omnipotent, omniscient, and and them characteristics of this deity, then the Almighty Creator. You know what I mean? So, but then we put it onto certain heroes and certain characters due to the light and the example of their life. You know.
True.
And yeah, and certain things like that. So it come like it is valid, and it come like is necessary, the myth. But then the thing where most people, certain people, was look out against is that whose myth is influencing your psychology. Because the myth is to influence your psychology, and then the psychology is supposed to influence your actions. So then if you're operating with a certain mythology that maybe is not really akin to your cultural values, or is not supposed to, or is somebody else's cultural values, and you have their myth in your head, it come like you're going to be working against your own self-interest, because the things what animating your thoughts and things is the values and the ethics and the traditions of some other outside group. You understand?
True.
Yeah, so
yeah, well, important, because since myth speak to more than just like you're referring to the creator, then everything that you say becomes very important. To me, I can see through different cultural mythology, I can see the common ground as it relates to the creator. I can see it. But when you talk about mythology representing different aspects of their cultural expressions and so on, then you gotta have mythology that carries the aesthetic, the specific aesthetic to your culture. For example, to me, you can find self through the Bible, which really all the story in them really they bear out the aesthetic, the cultural aesthetic of Europe. You understand? I can find truth in there, and I can go and look into the stories in Egypt, and I can see it there too. Why? Because it is referring to this creator entity. You see? And a big part of even this whole thing about the creator is about your self-realization. It's about finding self. That's the purpose that they serve, because you see, when you find God is when you find your true self. Our true self and our definition is in this creator thing. You see? So to me, we have to, in terms of what they apply to in a cultural context, it all depends on what the myths are about.
Of course. One of the main points we can't lose.
Elia.
Rastafari.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Rastafari.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it seems like freestyle got a little bit of connection.
We got to seal it here for tonight.
Yeah, just a little.
We have to yeah, I see that too. I was just going to tell the family, because I'm watching it here on the other side. I mean, our audio definitely clear. Definitely sounding clear, but I see on my part a little yes, but but we give thanks, man. It was still a beautiful reasoning, and I let me see if I go into next Thursday, but we may continue this, because it's Rastafari Roundtable, and I want to get into the whole aspect of the emperor, There are a few things around the emperor to see if things that may not be exact is a good thing for us, somewhat connected into our genetic memory bank. Because, we have that ability to connect with ourselves without being aware, we do things, we say things. We have a phrase in Tegan, we say, before time, so and so and so and so. We just say, before time. Now, just listen to that phrase alone, before time. That alone is showing you that we are people of anciency, We just say it and don't check it. And we have words even in our language like, boy, I'm yam something, and yam mean God. So I'm just saying that maybe in other ways, especially as conscious people, we may be expressing. It's not that we want to purposely, let's just say, super up the emperor, but because we understand the dynamics, and I want to go in the second bond to and we can go on and bring up many different stories that artists and one piece can help. And so we can canonize them and bring them more. And let's see what is historically true and what is. So let's sit down on that, and maybe we can do that for Thursday night. That sound good?
Yeah, I love that really, because let me just say quickly, when I started studying mythology. You with me?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Okay, good. When I started researching mythology.
Yeah, with you fully.
Yeah, after I start researching mythology, because after I learn, okay, these stories are myth, Jesus never existed, when I consider how these stories affect me, I say, no, there have to be something more to myth, because the common definition for myth is something that is not true. You understand? But I realize, listen, dealing with these stories and interacting with them, they actually do things. I mean, I grow spiritually, growing my understanding. So I said, no. There must be something to myth that is more than just falsehood. And when I go deeper and I investigate the whole thing, there's where I am learning about the psychological part of things now. You see? And that really just opened everything for me. And let me understand now why the mythology is powerful and why it is effective and will continue to be effective. You understand? Because the myth and them allow us to express certain things that just dealing with just the measure of things, as Uncle Majed allude to, would not allow us to capture those sentiments within ourselves. Because we are trying to speak to the transcendent. And and you can't use limited term to speak to transcendency. Because there's no limitation in that realm you're trying to describe. You understand? They're saying when the African contemplate, and this is in a book for Naim Akbar, they call the you can't talk about the light from the ancient, right? And it said that when the African people consider the vastness of the universe, they could not find
Egypt the light.
Yeah, you're right. They could not find any word that quite capture the reality that they were seeing. Then try science. Then find that science run out. Then find that logic run out. You understand? They try different discipline, philosophy that we know, and it still cannot capture it. So the great mind of the African created mythology where they can use these more supernatural kind of statement, these statements that is beyond reality, to capture that transcendent element that they were seeing about the reality of the universe. You understand? So myth actually very, very powerful. And it's more a case that we have to be re-educated, have a redefinition of the term beyond just mere falsehood. We definitely gotta get that across to people. That you're not dealing with term myth. You're just not dealing with whether something is false or true. It is way beyond that. You know?
Enough respect to that.
I would like to say,
Brother Jen,
yeah, man.
and we're sealing up.
Yes, I give thanks. We'll give thanks to the audience and give thanks to the panelists for the lively.
No, take your time and say what you're saying, do you know?
Yeah. For the conversation.
Oh, okay.
So I was saying the myth now, right? It related to power, and then power related to truth, and then truth related to facts. So it come like, just like how Osiris saying, but he say Jesus don't exist and whatever. But then the people that believe Jesus exists, they harness so much power and control that they institute this into historical reality that we on the calendar system of before and after Christ and all of these things, you understand? So this related back to like what I was saying in Rastafari, now we want to start to set up certain dates and things like that and create within the living mythology we creating, and then is who mythology applying and most relevant to really captivate the attention span and thing of the peoples. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the kind of so I just watch Rastafari mythology and Rastafari movement and thing as a more relevant, living, useful, functional paradigm of thought to be in. You understand? At this point in juncture in life. You understand? So that's what I would say about the myth and these kind of vibes. Give thanks.
We're in the best position to keep mythology alive because of His Majesty being a real character.
Truly. Yes, I. Yes, I.
Yeah, yeah. On that note, I think we seal it. Yeah, that's a real massive point we end with there. Yes, Rastafari, say done now. I will just guide them out and say one word to the family before I move on. Just blessed love and give thanks.
Yes,
and I don't know, we'll link again.
If you were to be humbly acceptable.
All right, Rastafari.
Rastafari.
Yes, my Lord. Give thanks with the strength as well, and even coming in and you're sharing with the people. My Lord, blessed Lord, give thanks. Yes, family, so give thanks again, you know, and give thanks for the royal household, give thanks for each one coming through. Just pardon any little glitch and any little technical vibes and all corners there. But it was a wonderful reasoning, a wonderful discussion. And let me just say too, those of you who would want to even be a part of such a reasoning, the possibilities are there. Yeah, well, you definitely would have to contact me first, email me, and of course I will, you know, recontact you, and don't be ashamed to be screened. When I say screen, I gotta know who you are before you just jump on board. And you could come and sit around the round table. I'm sure you have much to add to the reasoning, much to add to the conversation. That goes in general, you know, to anyone, even if it's not around the Rasta round table, and you think you have something to share with the people of consciousness, something that we should hear, you know, something that you would like to propose to us, not me, but to the audience, and teach us, isaacinstitute@gmail.com. Let me know, yeah, I'd like to come on board and reason with the Rastafari round table. My name is such and such. Maybe I might do a Zoom with you first and I see who you are and say, okay, sounds good. We can have a conversation, a one-on-one, wherever they come. So if you want to join the discussion, if you think, hey, listen, this discussion sounds good, but them fellas missing something, because I know some of you saying these fellas missing something, they ain't bringing in this part and that part and the other part. Well, the door is open now for you to come and bring in that part. Don't be scared now. It's all right. No one is going to bite, even though it's in the tiger's nest. Family, give thanks to the life giver and the keeper of life. I would leave it at that for now. You're going to see me in a moment. Once again, all blessings and honor to the Honorable Princess Acacia Menon on her Earth Day. Where is she? Where is she? Okay. Well, give thanks to the Honorable Princess Acacia Menon on her Earth Day. Give thanks to life, new life and love. Sekhmet, those of you, you'll see her in the chat. It's in the chat. She is put down as Princess Sekhmet. So she's right there in the chat with you. And of course, let me come and give you a little hug here. Of course, you know, okay, so this is my wonderful daughter giving thanks to the life giver and the keeper of life for her, Princess Acacia Menon. Blessed love. Blessed love, you know. So yeah, family, give thanks, and I'm sure, you know, the ones in the chat are just giving love and showing their strength. And of course, you monitor the chat massively. Let me see what you're doing here tonight. Yeah, there you are, Princess Sekhmet. Oh, you were telling me I was breaking up. So I'll give thanks. I wasn't really checking and sticking. You see? So that's my personal assistant there, Honorable Princess Acacia Menon, blessed love. And give thanks to all the moderators in the house tonight. Of course, Black Mill, talking about the mighty prophet, man. Give thanks, mighty prophet, of course, and of course, that's Manai in the house and your royal family. And of course, where you see the Priest Isaac's Institute of Holistic Knowledge. Give thanks to the Honorable Empress Naya with us. Beautiful. And of course, the Honorable Prince Almasi Engineering as well. The full house is here. I give thanks for the love. Give thanks for each and every one. Remember, tomorrow evening on Radio Anu now, fully Radio Anu, more than likely we will be streaming it to the YouTube. But come over and check us on Radio Anu family. Myself and Honorable Kess Westmore That is Priest Richie. That's tomorrow evening. That's at 8 p.m. More Rastafari reasoning. This one is the House of Priests, and we're going to be talking about, hear this reasoning, man. You got to be in the house. We're going to be talking about the Sabbath. Myself and the Honorable Priest Richie. All praises. Give thanks, life giver and the keeper of life. Holy Emmanuel I, Selassie I, Jah, Rastafari. Give thanks. Blessed